On the far side of the moon, where sunlight never touched the deep craters, a quiet research station hummed with hidden purpose. Tycho Prime was not marked on any public star chart. Its existence was known only to a few on Earth and even fewer beyond. Inside the station's central observatory, Dana Whitmore stared at the flickering lines on her screen. Her fingers moved fast over the console, pulling data from deep space sensors scattered across the outer rim of the solar system. Something was wrong. The readings made no sense. Energy signatures too large, too fast, and moving in perfect formation. They were not natural. They were not human. Dana had spent 10 years studying cosmic background radiation, mapping the quiet hum of the universe. She knew every whisper of the void. But this was different. This was a roar wrapped in silence. She called it in immediately. Her voice was calm, but her hands shook as she sent the encrypted burst-to-earth command. Within minutes, a response came back, not from a technician or a junior officer, but from General Eli Dawson himself. The message was short. Initiate protocol, Iron Veil. Lock all channels. No external comms. Stand by for orders. Down on Earth, in a bunker buried beneath the rocky hills of Colorado, Eli Dawson stood before a wall of live feeds. His face was lined with years of quiet readiness. He had waited for this moment longer than most people knew the program existed. Iron Veil was not just a defense plan. It was a secret that had shaped human history for the last 50 years. While the world celebrated peace, trade, and exploration, a hidden arm of Earth's governments had prepared for war. Not against each other, but against what might come from the stars. Eli had read the old reports, the intercepted signals from dead alien probes, the strange ruins found on Europa. Humanity was not alone, and not all who watched were friendly. He gave the order. Across the solar system, dormant systems woke. Hidden shipyards beneath the ice of Enceladus powered up. Orbital defense platforms disguised as communication relays unfolded their weapon arrays. Acors that had slept for decades began calculating trajectories, threat probabilities, and counterstrike options. None of it was visible from the surface of Earth. To the billions below, life went on as usual. Children went to school. Farmers planted crops. Cities buzzed with noise and light. They did not know that the sky above them was now a battlefield waiting to ignite. Meanwhile, far from the Sol system, on the gleaming capital world of Virelis, Ambassador Mira Colton walked through the grand hall of the Galactic Concord. The air smelled of ozone and polished stone. Beings from hundreds of species moved in quiet dignity, their robes and armor marking their rank and origin. Mira was the only human here. Earth had been granted observer status only 5 years ago, after proving it had achieved stable fusion and interplanetary travel. But observer status meant little. The Concord saw Earth as young, loud, and unrefined. They tolerated her presence but rarely listened. Mira had spent months trying to get a formal hearing. She carried data, real, verified data, about the strange signals near the Sol system. She had even included Dana's initial analysis, but every request was met with polite delays. The Council is reviewing your submission, they told her. Please be patient. Patience was running out. She stood now before the chamber doors, waiting for her turn to speak. A tall, silver-scaled delegate from the Zenthari Alliance glanced at her and whispered something to his aide. Mira ignored it. She had learned to wear silence like armor. When she finally entered the council chamber, the air was thick with the weight of ancient decisions. High Arbiter Vexilorn sat at the center, his many eyes half closed in what might have been boredom or deep thought. Mira stepped onto the speaking platform and activated her translator. Honored members of the Concord, she began. I come before you not as a petitioner, but as a warning. My world has detected a fleet of unknown origin moving toward our system at speeds that defy known physics. They are not broadcasting. They are not answering hails. And they are closing fast. A murmur passed through the chamber. Some delegates leaned forward. Others exchanged glances. Vexlorn opened his eyes fully. Ambassador Colton, he said, his voice like dry leaves. You speak of shadows. The void is full of echoes. Your species is new to the stars. It is understandable that you mistake cosmic noise for threat. This is not noise, Mira said, her voice steady. We have triangulated the source. We have tracked their path. They will reach Mars orbit in 17 days. Even if true, said a delegate from the Krellian bloc, what concern is this of the Concord? Your system lies outside our protected zones. You have not yet joined the Treaty of Mutual Defense. We are not asking for defense, Mira replied. We are asking for awareness. If this fleet is hostile and if they succeed, They will not stop at Earth. The conquered must consider the pattern. Vexilorn raised a hand. The chamber fell silent. The Council acknowledges your concern, he said. Your report will be filed under review. You may withdraw. Mira wanted to argue, to shout, but she knew it would only confirm their view of humans as emotional and impulsive. She bowed slightly and left the chamber. Outside, she leaned against a cool stone pillar and closed her eyes. 17 days. That was all they had. Back on Tycho Prime, Dana watched as the alien signatures grew stronger. They were no longer just blips. They were shapes. Massive, angular, and dark. They moved like predators. She sent another update to Earth Command. This time the reply included a new directive. Prepare for evacuation. Not of the station, of the entire lunar surface. Tycho Prime would be abandoned within 48 hours. Its data would be wiped. Its power core would be set to overload. Nothing would be left for the enemy to find. Dana packed only what she needed. A small drive with her personal logs. A photo of her brother lost in the Venus atmospheric collapse of 38. And her father's old compass, useless in space but heavy with memory. As she stepped into the evacuation shuttle, she looked back at the station one last time. It had been her home for 6 years. Now it would become a tomb. In Colorado, Eli Dawson reviewed the final readiness reports. Every system was green. Every crew was in position. Earth was ready. Not for surrender. Not for negotiation. But for war. He did not know if they would win. But he knew one thing for certain. Whoever was coming would learn that humanity did not go quietly into the dark. And on Varelli's, Mira Colton sent one last message to Earth. It was unencrypted, simple, and direct. They are not listening. Prepare yourselves. Then she turned off her comm unit and walked into the city alone, wondering if she would ever see her home again. The first strike came without warning. No declaration, no signal. Just fire in the dark. The Cathari Armada dropped out of warp near the orbit of Mars and opened fire. Their weapons were not beams or missiles as humans understood them. They fired pulses of compressed space-time that unraveled matter at the atomic level. The Mars orbital shipyards vanished in an instant. Not exploded. Not shattered. Simply gone, as if they had never existed. The Jovian mining stations followed minutes later. Entire habitats, thousands of lives erased like chalk from a board. On Earth, alarms blared in hidden command centers. Eli Dawson watched the reports flood in. His face was stone. He had expected this. Hoped for it even. Because now the rules had changed. Humanity no longer needed to hide. It could fight back. He gave the order. Activate the veil. Across the solar system, dormant defenses roared to life. Near Saturn, hidden beneath the ring's icy debris, a network of drone launchers unfolded. These were not ordinary drones. They were no larger than a human hand, but each carried a micro-singularity core and an AI trained for swarm tactics. They moved in silence, guided by quantum-linked signals no enemy could trace. The Cathari expected fear. They expected surrender. What they found was resistance sharper than any blade. Near Neptune, a Cathari cruiser turned its sensors toward a drifting ice fragment. It registered as inert, harmless. Then the fragment split open, revealing a railgun platform that fired a tungsten slug at near-light speed. The cruiser's shields buckled. Its hull tore open like paper. Inside, the Cathari crew had no time to react. They died before their minds could process the breach. But the real surprise waited near Saturn. Captain Jonah Briggs stood on the bridge of the CS Valkyrie, a stealth corvette no larger than a freighter but packed with experimental tech. His ship was coated in metamaterial that bent light and radar around it. To sensors, it was empty space. He had been tracking the Cathari dreadnought for hours. It was the flagship of the invasion force, massive, black, and bristling with weapons. It hovered near Titan, scanning for human outposts. It never saw the Valkyrie. Jonah's crew worked in silence. No chatter, no wasted words. They had trained for this moment in simulators for years. Now it was real. "Deploy mines," Jonah said. His voice was low but steady. From the Valkyrie's belly, 12 phase disruptor mines drifted into the void. They looked like space junk. Old bolts, broken panels. Nothing worth noticing, but each contained a field generator capable of tearing a hole in local physics. When the dreadnought passed within range, Jonah gave the final command. The mines activated at once, not with fire but with distortion. Space itself twisted around the dreadnought. Its shields flickered and died. Its engines screamed as they tried to push against a reality that no longer obeyed the usual rules. Then the ship broke apart, not from the outside in but from the inside out. Its own mass turned against it. Metal folded into impossible shapes. Decks collapsed into voids that should not exist. Within seconds, the dreadnought was a cloud of wreckage drifting in Saturn's shadow. Back on Earth, the news spread through secure channels. Morale, which had been tense, surged. Humanity was not helpless. They had struck back. And they had won. Dana Whitmore, now aboard a command vessel near the asteroid belt, analyzed the battle data. She saw something the others missed. The Cathari were not just attacking. They were probing. Testing. Their fleet formation was too rigid, too cautious for a full invasion. They were afraid. Afraid of what they did not understand. And that gave humanity an edge. Meanwhile, on Varellis, the Galactic Concord finally took notice. Reports of the battle near Saturn reached the Council through neutral traders. At first, they did not believe it. A human ship defeating a Cathari dreadnought? Impossible. The Cathari were one of the oldest warfaring species in the galaxy. Their technology was centuries ahead of Earth's. Yet the evidence was undeniable. Wreckage matched Cathari design. Sensor logs from passing freighters confirmed the event. The Council called an emergency session. Mira Colton was summoned again. This time, the chamber was full. Delegates stood in the aisles. Even the silent observers from the outer rim had turned their heads. Fex Lorne looked older, his scales dull. "Ambassador," he said, "explain this. How did your people achieve such a victory?" Mira did not smile. She did not gloat. She simply said, "We prepared. While others assumed we were primitive, we built. While others debated protocol, we trained." The Cathari came expecting prey. They found hunters. A murmur rose. Some delegates looked uneasy. Others angry. A representative from the Thalassian Union spoke up. "This changes nothing. Earth acted without Concord approval. Unilateral military action violates the charter of peaceful coexistence." "Peaceful coexistence?" Mira said, her voice rising for the first time. "While our cities burned, while our people died, you offered us silence. We gave you results." Vex Lorne raised a hand. "The Council will send observers. Not troops, not weapons, observers, to assess the situation and ensure no further escalation." Mira knew what that meant. They would watch. They would wait. They would do nothing until it was too late. Again. Back in the Sol system, Eli Dawson reviewed the damage reports. Mars was lost. Jupiter's moons were compromised, but Earth itself remained untouched. For now, he knew the Cathari would return. Stronger, angrier. They would not make the same mistakes twice, so humanity had to move faster. Think deeper. He authorized the next phase, Operation Thunderchild. It was risky, untested, but it might be their only chance. Dana worked with a team of engineers to repurpose terraforming engines originally designed to warm Mars. Now they would be used to create controlled gravity waves, ripples in space-time that could disable entire fleets. The math was terrifyingly complex, but Dana saw the pattern. If they could trigger the wave near Neptune, where the Cathari were regrouping, it might buy them weeks, maybe months. Jonah Briggs returned to lunar orbit, his ship battered but intact. His crew was exhausted but proud. They had proven that humans could stand against the galaxy's worst. As he stepped onto the hangar deck, a message flashed on his wrist display. It was from Eli Dawson. 2 words. "Stand ready." Far beyond the solar system, the Cathari High Command received news of their loss. Silence fell over their war chamber. For the first time in generations, they felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. Their doctrine had always been simple. Strike fast, crush resistance, absorb the survivors. But this species did not break. It adapted. It fought back with cunning and fury. One elder whispered a warning that spread like frost through the fleet. Earth is not a world to conquer. It is a fire to avoid. But it was too late for retreat. Honor demanded response, and so the Cathari gathered their full might. Not just a strike force, an armada, thousands of ships, enough to glass every planet in the system. They would show the galaxy what happened to those who defied the natural order. And on Earth, in cities and bunkers and hidden bases, people looked up at the night sky. They did not know the details, but they felt it. The tension, the quiet before the storm. Some prayed, some trained. Some held their children close. All of them knew one thing. The next battle would decide everything, and humanity would not ask for permission to survive. The Galactic Concord moved slowly as it always had. Its ships were sleek and silver, built for diplomacy, not war. When the observer fleet arrived near the edge of the Sol system, they broadcast a standard neutrality signal. No weapons. No intent to engage. They came only to watch, to record, to judge. Captain Jonah Briggs received the signal on the Valkyrie's comm and laughed once, dry and short. He knew what it meant. The Concorde would stand aside and let the Cathari burn Earth to ash, then file a report on the tragedy. Maybe hold a memorial, maybe not. On Varelli's, Mira Colton watched the observer deployment from a public feed. She sat alone in her quarters, the city lights glittering below like cold stars. She had stopped attending council sessions. They were theater now, empty words while her world bled. She sent one last plea to the human delegation office on Earth. It was simple. They will not help. Do not wait for them. She did not expect a reply. None came. Deep in the Neptune orbit, Dana Whitmore floated inside the command module of Project Thunderchild. Around her, engineers worked in silence, calibrating the last of the terraforming engines. These machines had once been meant to melt ice caps and seed atmospheres. Now they pulsed with unstable energy, tuned to resonate with the fabric of space itself. If the calculations were right, the resulting gravity wave would ripple outward at light speed, disrupting the Cathari fleet's cohesion. If wrong, it might tear Neptune's moon Triton apart. Dana checked the numbers again. Then again. She trusted the math. She had to. Eli Dawson stood in the Earth command bunker, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the Cathari armada. It was larger than anyone had feared. Over 2,000 ships, dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, all moving in perfect formation toward the inner system. They would reach Jupiter in 3 days, Mars in 5, Earth in 7. He gave the final order. Thunderchild would activate in 12 hours. All non-essential personnel were to evacuate to underground shelters. The surface would be abandoned. But Eli knew evacuation was not enough. Humanity needed more than survival. It needed a voice. A message that would outlive cities and ships and even stars. He called Dana. "Can the Thunderchild array carry a data burst?" he asked. She understood at once. "Yes," she said. "We can encode a signal in the wave itself. It will travel with the distortion. Anyone with the right receiver will hear it." "Good," Eli said. "Then we send them everything. Our history, our music, our wars, our hope. Let them know who we were. And who we are." Meanwhile, the Cathari High Command reviewed their approach. They had studied the Saturn ambush, analyzed the wreckage. They now understood human tactics, stealth, deception, asymmetric strikes. They adjusted. Their new formation placed shielded command ships at the core, surrounded by layers of drone escorts and sensor-jamming vessels. They would not be caught off guard again. Their goal was simple: reach Earth orbit, deploy orbital lances, and reduce the planet to molten rock. No prisoners, no ruins, just silence. But Dana had found something in the Cathari comms traffic. It was faint, buried under layers of encryption. But her AI had isolated a repeating phrase. Not a command, a fear. Translated, it read, "Do not let them rise." She brought it to Eli. "They're not just here to conquer," she said. "They're here to prevent something. They think we'll become a threat to the balance of power." Eli nodded. "Then we prove them right." As Thunderchild powered up, the Concorde observers drifted closer, recording everything. Their lead ship, the Harmony of Spheres helm, sent a formal inquiry. "Earth Command, please clarify your energy buildup. This may be interpreted as an act of aggression." Eli did not reply. He had no time for warnings from those who offered no help. 12 hours became 6. 6 became 2. Dana ran final diagnostics. All systems green. The engines hummed with building power. Outside the module, space seemed to warp slightly, as if reality itself was holding its breath. Then at 0 hour, she pressed the activation key. The effect was not explosive. It was deeper, quieter. A pulse spread from Neptune like a stone dropped in still water. But this water was space-time. The Cathari fleet, still light minutes away, shuddered. Their formation broke. Ships spun out of control as their inertial dampeners failed. Navigation systems glitched. For the first time, their perfect order cracked. 2 dreadnoughts collided. A carrier lost its shield matrix and vented atmosphere into the void. The wave did not destroy. It confused. It delayed. And that was enough. On Earth, Eli watched the chaos unfold on his screen. "Now," he said. And from hidden bases across the asteroid belt, a second wave launched. Not weapons, not ships, data pods. Thousands of them, each carrying a copy of the Odyssey signal, humanity's final broadcast. They shot into deep space on randomized trajectories, some toward known systems, most into the unknown. Even if Earth fell, the message would live. Jonah Briggs led a small strike group toward the disoriented Cathari flank. His mission was not to win. It was to buy time. Using the Valkyrie's stealth, he targeted command relays and comms hubs. Each strike was precise, surgical. Each bought minutes for the data pods to escape. His ship took damage. Hull breaches sealed automatically. Oxygen levels dropped. But he did not retreat. Not yet. On Virelli's, the Concord Council erupted. The Thunderchild pulse had been detected across the sector. Some delegates called it a reckless act of war. Others whispered that it was genius. Vexilorn sat in silence. For the first time, doubt clouded his ancient eyes. The humans were not following the rules. They were writing new ones. Mira Colton received a private transmission. It was the Odyssey signal, sent directly to her comm. She played it in her room. Voices. Laughter. A child singing. A symphony. The sound of rain. She closed her eyes and wept, not for loss, but for pride, and far beyond. In the dark between stars, the first data pod passed a Cathari patrol. They tried to destroy it, but it was too small, too fast. It vanished into the void, carrying Earth's voice into forever. The Cathari regrouped, angrier now, more determined. They would crush this defiance. They had to, because if they failed, others would rise. Others would remember. But Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a promise. And promises do not die easily. Earth did not wait to be buried. While the Cathari regrouped beyond Jupiter, humanity made its boldest move. From hidden docks beneath the ice of Europa and Ganymede, a fleet unlike any before began to stir. These were not warships. They were colony vessels. Massive, slow, built for endurance, not battle. Each carried millions of souls, frozen in cryosleep along with seed banks, cultural archives, and the full blueprint of human civilization. They had been prepared in secret for decades, part of a contingency known only as the Odyssey Initiative. Now with Earth's surface bracing for fire, the time had come to leave. Captain Jonah Briggs stood on the observation deck of the CS Valkyrie, watching the first wave of colony ships lift from Europa's shadow. Their engines glowed blue against the black, silent and steady. His own ship was battered, patched with emergency plating, but still spaceworthy. His new orders were clear. Escort the lead group to the edge of known space, then scatter. No fixed destination, no return route. Just survival. He looked at the faces of his crew, tired, scarred, but unbroken. They knew what this meant. They would never see Earth again, but their children might see a new one. Dana Whitmore was aboard the Persephone, the command ark of the Exodus fleet. She had left the Thunderchild array behind, its work done. Now her role was different. She monitored the Odyssey signal as it spread through the galaxy, carried by thousands of pods and embedded in the navigation cores of every departing ship. The message was not a plea. It was a declaration. We are here, we endure, we remember. She watched as the first replies trickled in, not from the Concord, but from fringe worlds, from enslaved species, from rebels hiding in the dark. They had heard Earth's voice, and they were listening. On the surface of Earth, Eli Dawson walked through the empty streets of Denver. The city was quiet. All civilians had been moved underground or off-world. Only soldiers and essential staff remained. Above, the sky was clear, but soon it would burn. He did not fear death. He feared silence. So he made sure Earth would not go quietly. Hidden beneath the Pacific, deep in the Mariana Trench, the last of the Iron Veil weapons powered up, not to destroy the enemy, but to mark them. Every Cathari ship that entered orbit would be tagged with quantum beacons, broadcasting their location across the galaxy for centuries. Even in death, Earth would name its killers. The Cathari Armada arrived at Mars orbit 3 days later. They expected resistance. They found ghosts. The planet was empty. No ships, no signals, just ruins and silence. They moved inward, cautious now. Their scouts reported strange energy echoes near Earth, residual distortions from Thunderchild mixed with something else. A hum, a pattern, the Odyssey signal, looping endlessly from hidden transmitters on the moon and in low orbit. It confused their systems, slowed their advance, gave the last colony ships time to jump to warp. Then Earth answered, not with weapons, but with light. Every city, every tower, every solar array flared at once in a coordinated pulse. A final broadcast in visible spectrum, visible from space. It showed human faces, children, elders, artists, farmers, soldiers, all looking up, all unafraid. The Cathari command hesitated. For the first time, they saw not a threat, but a people, and that shook them more than any weapon. Eli Dawson stood in the command bunker as the first orbital lances fired. The ground shook. The lights flickered. He did not flinch. He activated the final protocol. Deep beneath the planet, dormant volcanoes stirred. Tectonic triggers released. Earth would not be taken intact. If it fell, it would fall screaming. The Cathari would get only ash and memory. Meanwhile, the Exodus fleet reached the heliopause, the edge of the sun's influence. Here they split. Some turned toward the Perseus arm. Others vanished into the void between arms. Each ship carried a piece of Earth, but none carried the same path. Jonah Briggs led the Persephone group toward a faint signal from an uncharted nebula. Dana had detected stable planets there, hidden by cosmic dust. It was a gamble, but all of life was now a gamble. On Virellis, the Galactic Concord watched in stunned silence. Their observers had recorded everything. The Exodus, the broadcast, Earth's final stand. The council chamber was no longer filled with arrogance. It was filled with shame. Vex Lorne sat alone after the session ended. He replayed the human broadcast. He saw a young girl planting a seed in scorched soil. He did not understand why it hurt to watch. Mira Colton boarded a civilian freighter bound for the Outer Rim. She had resigned her post. The Concord was dead to her, but the Odyssey signal was alive. She would follow it. Find the new human worlds. Help them grow. She looked back at Virellis one last time as the ship jumped to warp. She did not know if she would survive the journey, but she knew one thing. Humanity was no longer a single world. It was a wave, and waves cannot be stopped. Back in the Sol system, the Cathari claimed victory. They declared Earth pacified. But their reports were hollow. They had won a graveyard. And as their ships turned to leave, the quantum beacons activated. Across the galaxy, receivers lit up. The location of every Cathari vessel was now public. Rebellion stirred on a dozen worlds. The balance had shifted, and far away in the cold dark, a child woke from cryosleep aboard the Persephone. She looked out the viewport at a strange star. Dana Whitmore held her hand. "That's our sun now," she said. The girl smiled, and somewhere in the endless night, Earth's rage still trembled the stars. Years passed like starlight, slow, steady, and full of change. The galaxy was not the same. Human outposts now dotted the periphery, hidden in nebulae, nestled in asteroid belts built on worlds the old powers had ignored. They were not grand, not loud, but they were alive. Farms grew under alien suns. Schools taught Earth's history alongside new myths. Children played in gravity that felt strange but familiar. Humanity had not returned. It had spread. And in spreading, it had changed everything. On a quiet research station orbiting Proxima Centauri b, Dana Whitmore adjusted the frequency on her deep space receiver. The station was small, built from salvaged arc parts and local materials. Outside, red sunlight bathed the curved hull in warm rust. Inside, the air hummed with the sound of life support and quiet work. Dana was older now. Her hair was gray at the temples. Her hands lined with years of data and worry, but her eyes were sharp. She still listened, still watched, still hoped. Then it came. A signal, faint, distorted by distance, but unmistakable. Not from Earth. Earth was silent now, a tomb wrapped in ash and memory, but from somewhere deeper in the Veil Nebula. It was a simple pulse. 3 beats, pause, 3 beats again, the old emergency beacon, followed by words spoken in clear, calm English. "We are still here." Dana's breath caught. She played it again, then again. Tears welled, but she did not wipe them away. This was not grief. This was proof. Somewhere another ark had landed. Another piece of humanity had taken root. She forwarded the signal to every human settlement on the network. Within hours, replies poured in. Joy, relief, plans for contact. The scattered seeds were finding each other. Not to rebuild the old world, but to grow something new. Far across the galaxy, in the ruins of what was once Virellis, the last session of the Galactic Concord dissolved in chaos. The capital world had fallen not to war, but to rebellion. Species long oppressed by the old order rose up, inspired by the Odyssey signal. They did not want conquest. They wanted voice. And they had found it in Earth's final broadcast. The great halls where delegates once debated protocol were now filled with refugees, rebels, and dreamers. The archives were open to all. The old laws were ash. High Arbiter Vexilorn walked alone through the empty council chamber. His scales were dull, his steps slow. He carried no title now. No power, just memory. On a cracked display near the entrance, a loop of the human broadcast still played. A man playing a violin in a ruined city, notes rising above the smoke. Vexilorn stopped and watched. He did not understand the music. But he understood the defiance in it, the refusal to be erased. He whispered what every elder race now knew. Earth's rage had not just defended its home, it had shattered the old order. And the stars would never be silent again. On a frontier world in the Perseus Rift, Jonah Briggs stood on a ridge overlooking a valley of blue grass. The air was thin but breathable. Below, the first generation born off Earth ran through the fields, laughing. Their skin was a little darker. Their eyes adapted to the twin suns. They spoke a mix of English and new words shaped by wind and need. Jonah's ship, the Valkyrie, sat in a dry dock nearby. Now a museum and school. Children climbed its hull, imagining battles they would never fight. He smiled. This was better than victory. This was peace earned. He received Dana's message about the new signal. He did not reply right away. Instead, he walked down to the settlement's central square, where a stone monument stood. It bore no names, just a single line. They tried to bury us. They did not know we were seeds. He placed a hand on the stone and felt the warmth of the sun. Then he sent his reply, "Send coordinates." "We're coming." Back on Proxima Centauri, Dana prepared the station's only long-range scout ship for departure. It was old but reliable. She would not go alone. A young pilot named Leah Cruz, born on the Persephone, raised on stories of Earth, would fly with her. Leah had never seen Sol, but she knew its songs. She knew its pain. And she carried its hope like a compass. As they lifted off, Dana looked back at the red planet below. It was not home, but it had been a harbor. Now they sailed again, toward voices in the dark, toward family they had never met, toward a future written not in stone but in starlight. And in the deepest void between galaxies, a Cathari scout ship drifted. Its crew was not hunting. They were listening. The Odyssey signal had reached them too, not as a threat, but as a question. Their young ones asked, why did they fight so hard to live? The elders had no answer, only shame. The Cathari Empire was fracturing now, not from war, but from doubt, from the terrible, beautiful idea that maybe strength was not in conquest, but in creation. So the galaxy turned. Old powers faded. New voices rose. And at the heart of it all was a species that refused to disappear. Earth was gone, but Earth's children were everywhere. In shipyards on forgotten moons, in songs sung under alien skies, in the quiet courage of those who built instead of burned. Dawn broke over the Bluegrass Valley. Leah's ship vanished into the sky. Jonah watched it go, then turned to the fields. Work waited. Life went on. And somewhere in the endless dark, another human voice whispered into the void, "We are still here." And the stars trembled, not in fear, but in wonder.